One day, Chicken Little was playing in the yard when, whack, an acorn hit her on the head.
The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
And the answers that are trying to be bullied out of her in this instance have nothing to do with the topic at hand. And I would request, Chair, that you obtain the decorum of this committee on the topic, because if we're going to go down this path, then, you know, there's so many other topics that we can ask our respected witnesses here today.
Brock's point of order.
I'm asking that Ms. Khalid withdraw her derogatory commentary, that I provided a bullying question to this particular witness. I asked it in a very respectful manner. I pressed it, but that was not bullying.
So,
Coming up in this one, we've got Iqra Khalid, the problem child, facing Larry Brock, who rocks, one of our favorite MPs, most engaging guys in Parliament. He's very fun to watch. Iqra Khalid is a spoiled, rotten child who throws hissy fits constantly. John Williamson, the chair of this committee, is a sharp MP from New Brunswick, trying to keep the balance. Hard thing to do with Iqra Khalid anywhere's near or around. Anyway, we're going to jump right in. Watch Larry Brock. He is a man on fire. Iqra Khalid is the problem child. These are the committee meetings. We cover all this stuff when session is in. Let's take a look at what you're missing, and you can catch up. Hit that subscribe. Come and join us for one of our committee videos. Always interesting. Let's get going.
up next, Mr. Brock, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the witnesses for your attendance today. I'll largely be addressing my questions to you, Ms. McClymont. And I think I want to continue on the thread from my colleague, Mr. Cooper, where he had left off in terms of the process by which Ms. Verschaeren was ultimately appointed as chair. I know you can say hindsight's always 20/20, that reflecting on her finding of guilt under the Conflict of Interest Act ×2, you can say, well, I guess we should have taken some lessons from that and perhaps reinforced the conflict of interest provisions within the hiring sphere. But I guess what troubles me, and I'm sure troubles Canadians, is that there were red flags all over the concept of even entertaining the thought of hiring Annette Verschaeren. Much communication happening from the past president and CEO, and nothing really was done. And I know, Ms. McClymont, you're relying upon the advice and basically saying we encouraged her to obtain information and advice from the ethics commissioner, and clearly she did. But the advice that she received from the ethics commissioner, she didn't follow. Not only she did not follow, but other directors did not follow. Hence, we're in this boondoggle of $390 million of taxpayer funds inappropriately being handed out to companies that were legally not eligible, and for directors basically patting their pockets. So this is leaving a real sour taste in the minds of Canadians as to what kind of shenanigans are going on with Justin Trudeau and his government. He told her point blank, not only do you have to declare a conflict, you must recuse yourself. She didn't do that. On the basis of that, she was found guilty ×2. So, I want to go back to the process. You mentioned that there were under 10 applicants who were applying for this position. I want an actual number. And don't rely upon this as a privacy issue, because clearly it is not. I'm not asking for names. I'm asking for a finite number. How many people applied for the position of chair at SDTC?
Mr. Chair, as I've mentioned, there were close to 100 individuals who had applied for the chair position back in 2018.
You told me less than 10.
I was responding, Mr. Chair, I was responding to Mr. Cooper's question about the number on the advice letter that went forward. That was less than 10.
Okay, well, let's go back. Over 100 applications?
Mr. Chair, I would clarify there were close to 100
Close to 100. Of that 100, you vetted that down to under 10. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. What was the number under 10?
Mr. Chair, as I've mentioned, out of respect for privacy and
That's
personal
not good enough,
information-
Mr. Chair. I'll remind you, ma'am, of the supremacy of Parliament and the supremacy of this committee. The issue of privacy does not apply. I'm not asking for names. I'm asking for individuals that were mentioned in this referral letter that went off to the PMO and the minister's office. That is not a privacy issue. And if you claim privacy again, I will seek direction from the chair, because we have a right to demand that number and the documentation that flows from that. So I'll ask you again, out of respect, what is that actual number? I will not accept under 10.
Let me just interject here, just to assist the witness. So Mr. Brock is correct about privacy. Now, we're a long way from asking for any information from that. But I do think he is within his rights to ask for a number. Now, if you need to come back to us with that number, we'll accept that. At least that would be my recommendation. But I do think you need to provide a little more specificity, because there's a lot of numbers under 10. So if you would, please.
So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate your intervention. Our standard is that we don't divulge when it's less than 10, but I appreciate your offer to assess that and come back to the committee. So we will do that. We will check with our council and see if we're able to provide the number of names that were provided in the chair advice letter.
That answer is unsatisfactory to me. She's taking this request under advisement and obtaining legal information, legal counsel as to whether she can release that number. Again, I repeat that this is not a privacy issue that can trump the supremacy of Parliament and the supremacy of this committee. I will be asking this witness again to provide that information to this committee, an actual number of individuals that made it on the referral list.
Yeah, I will function here at the direction of the committee. Now, it is my view that if you have that number, you should provide it to this committee. There is no, from this committee's point of view, there is no legal obligation for us to wait for a response out of courtesy. If you don't have that, that'd be one thing, but that's not the answer you gave. It is also unusual for PCO to appear before a parliamentary committee like this. These are unusual circumstances because of this board. I would urge you to provide Mr. Brock with that answer. It does not violate any privacy considerations that you might be under that we are not under. And again, doing so, I think, would be forthcoming to this committee, which I think you should be. It would also steer us away from the committee taking additional steps to require you to provide that information. So I would urge you to provide the number to Mr. Brock, please.
I'm not, to be completely honest, I'm not sure if I have the exact number with me. So I would like to, if Mr. Chair, if it is possible, if I could just verify and we could get back to the committee with the number, if that's okay.
Is that just for clarity? Is that something you can verify in the next hour, or are you seeking? Okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you. So we'll look for that, and we'll deal with this before noon, Mr. Brock. Mr. Brock, I'm afraid your time is now up. So you'll have another opportunity, I believe. Turning now to Ms. Khalid, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And, as I continue to participate in this committee, I always see people, witnesses who spend their time coming in, sharing in good faith information with this committee and being put through the ringer. It's unfortunate, and I obviously encourage continually to my colleagues to please respect witnesses and to respect the legislation under which we are governed. I understand and appreciate the relevance of Parliament in how we operate, but I also want to stress that there are branches of how we operate as a democracy, and that we should act responsibly with the powers and privileges that we are given within our Parliament. Now, Ms. McClymont, you had made reference to production of documents. And as you may know, there was a Conservative motion that had been adopted in the House requiring the production of documents related to SDTC to the law clerk with the intention of providing these documents to the RCMP. Now, the Conservatives are egging the RCMP to start criminal investigations, and I don't think that's fair. It is quite an abuse of the powers that they're privileged to have in our democracy. Now, if I'm not mistaken, as you indicated, PCO plays a central role when it comes to production orders of this type, leading the process and providing guidance to departments. With regards to this production order, multiple offices implicated have raised some serious alarm bells. Earlier this summer, the RCMP commissioner raised the alarm, saying that there were risks that this motion compromised its investigative processes and police independence. Now, in your experience, have you seen a production order from Parliament that compromises institutions' independence in this way?
Mr. Chair, I would just preface that, again, I am a senior official from PCO. To be sure, we are focused on the appointment side of the House. I would say for our part, consistent with my previous comments, we do take very seriously our obligations under the Privacy Act, and we do redact information that is of a personal nature to protect appointees so that they do feel they can come forward and put their candidacy and be protected. And so that is absolutely what we did in this context for our part in senior personnel.
What are the dangers of information, for example, if the candidates their names are released or their general vicinity is released? What are the consequences to those people having seen the kind of dirt and mud that is slung at everybody in our democratic system in terms of applications, in terms of pushing forward the agenda of SDTC and of PCO?
Mr. Chair, I would say we really try to encourage people across the country to apply for these processes. I've over my time in this job, I've heard some very heartwarming stories of people who want to serve very, very much and are very grateful for the opportunity through an open process to do so. If that is breached, then we betray that confidence in people who have put themselves out there, who may not be successful for positions, who come from a very high stature across the country. So it would be very disappointing. It would cast a real chill for people to serve, and there's lots of public commentary these days about people not wanting to serve for a variety of reasons in a kind of heightened public and social media environment. So I would be very disappointed if we were to take steps that would anyway risk confidential information being provided that would hamper or cast a pall on people's interest in applying for positions.
But at the same time, we see that there has been an issue here. There's been a disconnect between the ethics commissioner, the AG, the PCO, with a candidate and their lawyers. How do you think that this transition to the NRC is going to help with increased oversight, for example, of these kind of appointments? What is your office doing to make sure that these kind of disconnects and that general mistrust in the entirety of candidacy that is not impacted?
Mr. Chair, I would say for our part, we will continue to look at ways to strengthen people's understanding of their obligations under the Act. I have spoken to the Ethics Commissioner myself if there's more things we could do in partnership together to make sure that people do understand their obligations, as one member pointed out, not from the beginning, but through the duration of their appointment. And I know the Commissioner does have tools in place to make sure that people are reminded of their obligations, and he offers training and other outreach. So I do think it's quite important, and it's something that we'll absolutely have to reflect on to make sure that people continue to understand their obligations under the legislative frameworks that they operate in.
Brief question, if you have one.
It's not brief, so
we'll hold off. I appreciate that, Ms. Khalid. So our fourth and final round, which will take us to approximately noon. Mr. Brock, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
The number of witnesses we've heard with respect to this study and yourselves today. The general theme I'm hearing is you're all talking about a fair, transparent, a robust appointment process in the hiring of the disgraced former chair of the SDTC, Annette Verschieren. Clearly, it's a failure, and it's seen by Canadians as a failure. In fact, it shattered the trust that Canadians have in our public institutions. And on the issue of failure, I want to talk about another colossal failure that your office had an interest in, and that was the hiring of the new Human Rights Commissioner, Datani, and his anti-Israel posts that he made under a pseudonym during his grad school year. We know he was placed on leave, and then he ultimately resigned. Your office is responsible for vetting all federal appointments. Your office has acknowledged that a quote-unquote administrative oversight led to an incomplete background check. Now, to me, that means, whoops, we screwed up. Clearly, someone in your office did not do a thorough background check. On the minds of Canadians is, what is this going to cost us? When reporters asked the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, Varani, his spokesperson, replied, no comment, when asked whether or not Datani was paid during his leave or received a compensation package after resigning. So if the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice doesn't want to respond, I'm going to ask you, was Datani paid during his leave? And if so, how much?
Mr. Chair, I would just mention that we were here today to talk about SDTC, so I wasn't super well prepared to address this question, but Chair, if you're willing to allow it, I will do my best to respond.
Absolutely, yes, please do.
Mr. Chair, we did at PCO express regret that there was not appropriate, that this was an administrative oversight in checking the names, as the member has pointed out, and that we have taken measures to ensure going forward that there is clarity that that all names provided will be sent forward.
Ma'am, if I could stop you there, please. My time is very limited, as you know. You're not a first-time participant in committee processes. The question was very simple. Was he paid during his leave, and how much?
Mr. Chair, I would reiterate that in terms of personal information, I'm not in a position to divulge personal information about compensation provided to any governor and council appointee.
Chair, I'm going to be asking for your intervention again.
Just going to pause the clock here, Mr. Brock. I don't want to take your time as I do when I do intervene. So, again, I'd ask you to be as forthcoming as you can. This committee is seized with this, and I would expect that there could be. I'll hear in a second, Ms. Khalid. I'd ask that you be as forthcoming as you can with the minister, with the members' question. Should you refuse to do so, the committee could well delve into this further and request, which is a polite way of saying, call for that information to come forward one way or the other. I believe Ms. Khalid has a point of order. I'm trying to strike a balance here, Ms. Khalid. I'm not the witness. The witness knows why the witnesses know why they're here today to provide answers. It's not up to me to call for that answer, but I am urging them to do so. But I will hear you, please.
Thanks, Chair. I do believe, as the witness correctly pointed out, that she's here to speak to a certain topic, and the answers that are trying to be bullied out of her in this instance have nothing to do with the topic at hand. And I would request, Chair, that you obtain the decorum of this committee on the topic, because if we're going to go down this path, then, there's so many other topics that we can ask our respected witnesses here today. I really think that we should stick to the topic at hand, and that is SDTC. We have spent a lot of time on this, and if we're going to go down this path, then I don't think that is helpful to what we're trying to achieve here, Chair.
So, as you know, I give members wide latitude to ask questions when officials are before us. Mr. Brock is certainly well within the bounds of his rights. This committee is seized with several investigations. So, of course, Ms. Khalid, that applies to all members. If there are questions outstanding for witnesses, they're not bound solely by the subject matter of the day. That's been a long established precedent. So I'll turn back to the witness. If you're able to provide direction or an answer that is more forthcoming to Mr. Brock's. Let me just finish my thought, and then I'll hear you. That is more forthcoming. The committee would certainly appreciate it. I know Mr. Brock would as well. But before you answer, I will hear Mr. Brock's point of order.
I'm asking that Ms. Khalid withdraw her derogatory commentary, that I provided a bullying question to this particular witness. I asked it in a very respectful manner. I pressed it, but that was not bullying.
So while I think this committee has conducted itself admirably today, I will hear from Ms. Khalid, and hopefully we can move on after that. Ms. Khalid, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair. My comment about members opposite bullying witnesses was not specific to this witness. It is specific, it's general in terms of how I have watched and observed them behave towards all witnesses in this committee. So there's really nothing here to withdraw.
Mr. Brock, why don't we move on? I think the committee is his.
Thank you, Chair.
So, I'm going to start the clock here.
Yeah.
I would turn to the witness first, who has.
Thank you.
All right. So, you have the floor, please.
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, I would reiterate that we're not in a position to divulge information of a personal nature surrounding any compensation paid to an individual governor and council appointee.
Let me just pause the clock. You've got a minute and a half left. So, Mr. Brock, you can you down this line? You've got a minute and a half left, or the committee can deal with this. We are going to committee business after the witnesses, and propose steps for the committee to take. To me, your question is within the bounds. We can compel an answer, but I would say go back to questions. But it's your time, of course. You can act however you like. But I'll turn things over. You have a minute and a half, please.
Canadians want answers as to why the government saw fit to hire an anti-Semite, not doing any appropriate background checks. Canadians want to know how much taxpayer money went to this Mr. Datani while he was on leave. He resigned in disgrace. Most people, when they resign, do not receive a severance package or a compensation package. I understand in this case, the Government of Canada saw fit to offer him a compensation package. Canadians want to know how much, and I'll be asking the Privy Council office to provide details of how much the compensation was and how much he received while on leave.
You have 40 seconds.
Will the witness provide me with that information?
Mr. Chair, I will just continue to reiterate that I would not be in a position to provide personal information. I would say to the question on leave that that was what was in the public domain, that the individual in question was on leave. That would have been approved by the organization itself. And that is really the utmost that I could offer, Mr. Chair.
Briefly, Mr. Brock, keyword brief, please.
Yeah, and I will iterate the supremacy of Parliament and the supremacy of this committee, which trumps and outweighs any privacy concerns that you are articulating, and we will be pushing for those figures.
Point of order, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Yes, Ms. Khalid, I'd like you to cite the point because
I absolutely will. This is with respect to your obligations as a chair. The Green Book cites the obligation of a witness to answer all questions put by the committee must be balanced against the role that public servants play in providing confidential advice to their ministers. The role of the public servant has traditionally been viewed in relation to the implementation and administration of government policy rather than determination of what that policy should be. So I think, Chair, that this, as I have said before, this line of questioning is absolutely against what the convention is within committee practice.
thank you, Ms. Khalid.
As a European, I am a European,
European.
actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
I'm Irish citizen. Yeah. So there you
welcome,
go.
welcome.
Speaking as a European,
WTF.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
and as the most European of the non-European countries,
being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Come on, Fiona.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.